Well, we're getting ready to do some resawing now, and Jim's bringing up some spectacular wood here. What do we got here?
Well, this piece is what I use to cut the raised panels on that jewelry chest, and this is just another fine piece of figured walnut.
So this is a crotch, and this is just, well, this is a crotch too.
Yeah, I think there's a knot right down here, or the end of a knot. But the reason I brought this along is it's so easy to read the grain.
Okay, you have to read the grain in order to do what when you're resawing?
Well, it really has more to do with planing after you've sawn the board than it does with the actual sawing. But you have to think about it now. The grain here is running, the fibers of the grain are running through this board at an angle like this. You can see it there on the sapwood.
Right, right.
The important thing when you're planing is that the cutter of the cutting action of the planer cutter head is cutting with the grain. It's like petting the cat rather than going backwards against the cat. They don't like that. They'll scratch you.
All right. So in other words, you go one way on the cat, it lays the fur down. You go the other way, it raises the fur up. This is the same way. You go one way on the board, and because of the slope of the grain, you can comb the grain one way, but you'll dig in the other.
Exactly, and you can see a little spot here on the end where that's been dug in.
Okay.
You can also use feel and touch to tell which way is right.
Really?
Yeah, just rub your hand both ways over that. Smooth that direction, rough that direction.
I didn't know that. That's true. This is smooth, and that is rough. You can feel it grab at your fingers.
Now, you can't do that on a rough sawn board, but sometimes when you've got contradicting directions on the grain, you have to plane a board by trial and error and take off a little bit, just a skim cut, to see which way that grain's going. This board is a good example of that. The grain here is going at an angle like this, the grain here is going at an angle like this, so which way do you plane it? I did make some test cuts.
Yeah, that would be hard to figure out. And what did you? Okay, I see. That's smooth,
and that's rough. So you're going to, the cutter head is going to be turning in this direction. You need to feed it through the planer in this direction.
Gotcha.
That way it's petting the cat, so to speak. But that's how to read the grain through the thickness of the board. Set those over there.
Okay.
Now the other thing you got to look at is working within the capacities of the machine. Sometimes you need a wide board, and we can only resaw 6 inches here. But you don't want to look like the board's been put together in a bunch of pieces. You don't want the side of a jewelry chest to look like a butcher block tabletop. So you need to be able to read the grain and identify what is natural in a piece of wood. Now this one is 2 pieces of wood sawn and book matched together. Again, the book match is where you slice a board, you open it like a book.
Okay, let's show this so that we can see this on camera 3. Okay.
Now you notice a symmetrical, 2 little knots there, a symmetrical pattern in the middle, this cathedral shape on the top. That's typical natural wood grain, but we've created that by just being smart on how we glue the board up.
Okay.
This one is also a pretty nice book match, but I screwed up when I did this and used too much clamping pressure, and look down the edge of that.
We can see it. Yeah, there you go.
It's S-shaped.
Yes.
That board's ruined.
So you compress the grain, and
Right.
And it wouldn't come back.
Right. And so all I can do with that is turn it into firewood, maybe some thin pieces. I don't know what I'll end up doing with that, but that's just caused by too much clamping pressure. You don't need a lot of clamping pressure when you've got good straight edges.
Now, what were you trying to do here?
Well, the book match didn't come out very well, and so I had to slide the boards in relationship to each other to try to get something that looked symmetrical, kind of natural, and this was as good as I could get, and I'm going to end up losing a little bit on each end, but I've still got enough material in the middle.
And it doesn't quite shout at you that there's a straight cut here.
Right. I've still got enough in the middle. I need 13 inches, and I've got a little more than that. So I can end up using that board.
So sometimes you may not, you have to not only open up the book, you have to rip it in half and slide it back and forth.
Right. Put it back together. That's right. This other one is interesting. This is 4 pieces glued together. Can you see the glue lines there?
No, I can barely make out the two. This one and this piece. But
Well, there's another edge that's glued on right here. It's about a 1/2 inch wide, and here that's a 1/2 inch wide.
I can barely see it. I can barely see that. I would never have known it if you hadn't pointed it out to me.
That's just more grain matching.
Nice job.
Well, that all started with just chunks of wood just like this.
Okay, we've read the grain.
Right.
Okay, we know which direction we're going in. What's next?
Well, next we slice it out, but in order to slice the wood, we need to know how thick we're going to slice it.
Well, you're using pretty much 1/4 inch wood, right?
Right.
So don't we just slice it at 1/4 of an inch?
No, because we have to allow for the saw kerf, and we have to allow for the planer. And we have to allow for the planer on both sides of the board.
And we also have to allow for if we're going to book match this, I never get the seam quite right. So
Well,
I would have to allow for the glue line also.
Right, so you'll add another 64th or 32nd to allow for an additional planing.
Okay, so how much is the saw curve usually on a bandsaw?
About a 1/16 of an inch.
Okay, and how much does the planer have to take off
With a smooth blade like this, another 32nd on each side.
on each side?
So that's another 1/16.
Okay, and for the glue line, how much do you allow for the glue line?
64th on the side is another 32nd.
Another 30 seconds. So I'm counting, okay, a 16th plus a 32nd of the 32nd.
Another is 16th, so we're up to an 1/8.
We're up to an 1/8, and another 32nd is,
7 32nds.
okay, 7 32nds. So we add that to a 1/4 of an inch and get 13
13 32, right.
Okay.
So that's how far the fence is away from the blade.
Okay, all right. Why don't you start setting this up? This is a kind of a newfangled fence for this particular bang and saw. Craig makes this, and it's a real nice fence, and it's got a thing I'm going to show you. I'm going to bring the camera around the back, where you can do micro adjustments. On this, you can actually move this fence in and out just a hair, and Jim is going to translate that hair and show you how you can translate the hair into thousandths.
While you're getting the camera, let me explain about this blade, Nick.
Okay.
The blade is a variable pitch blade, which means that the blade has inconsistent teeth on it.
Why does it need inconsistent teeth?
Well,
You mean the space between the teeth is inconsistent?
that's right. The blade is inconsistent in the distance between the teeth, so it doesn't vibrate and gives you a very smooth cut.
Okay.
A standard bandsaw blade may have teeth every 1/4 of an inch or 3 teeth per inch, but very consistent. This one has actually 3 different size teeth on it, so that it cuts smoother.
I see. So when it goes through the wood, when you have those teeth hitting rhythmically.
It sets up what's called a standing wave on the blade, and that's when you get the waviness in your board, in your cut, when you open it up, but you never see that until you've opened the board up, and then you end up having to take more wood off to compensate for that.
And this prevents that, so you get a smooth cut.
Right, with the variable pitch tooth, they call it, you get a smooth cut. It doesn't set up that harmonic distortion.
Okay.
Now we're going for 13 32nds.
All right. I'm going to try to get this around here so I can see through your back. There you go. Now I've got it.
Okay, the micro adjust right here is simply a piece of threaded rod and a knob here that allows the fence to move, or pulls or pushes the fence back and forth to move it along the scale for minute adjustments.
Okay, I got that to where we can see that, but I'm noticing some dots on that shaft. Is that, what are those dots for?
Well, I put those there to help me figure out how far I'm moving things. This shaft is a 1/4 thread.
Okay.
When you divide 1 inch by 20 threads per inch, you get 50 thousandths
Okay.
per revolution. So
1/4.
So 50 thousandths divided by 4 is about 12 and a half, and that's about a 64th. So we move the dot to move the fence 1/64th. We move it 1 dot.
1 dot plus a little bit.
Plus a little bit.
Okay.
So
Hey, hint to the engineer that designed this, if that had been a 1/4
or 1/4 threads.
1/4
It would have been direct reading.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but I don't really use that at first. I'll rely on the scale that's here on the fence mounting extrusion, and then check it with my scale against the blade and make any minor adjustments to get to my 13/32
Okay.
with that.
All right, I'm going to move the camera here, so get ready to be dizzy, folks, because this is, yeah. There we go. Drew very kindly switched over the cameras while I'm doing this. I'm going to come around here to this side, Jim, so we can see you as you get ready to do some resawing. There we go.
This piece is thick enough to make 3 book match pieces out of it, which will give me a panel after I glue it up together about 12 inches wide.
Okay.
Here we go. Want to hook up dust collection.
Yep. We need to do that. Let me put on some eye protection.
Ready?
Ready. No problem?
Yeah, I've got blade lead.
Okay. Now let's explain what blade lead is.
Okay, this is where the blade is tracking the wood instead of the fence tracking the wood.
I see.
And right now it's pulling the wood away from the fence and cutting a progressively thinner and thinner piece of wood.
Folks, when you have a bandsaw blade, you never can sharpen it or never get one that cuts evenly on both sides. There's always going to be a little bit more aggressive cut on one side rather than the other. This is called blade lead, and this is what's bothering Jim. And so all bandsaw fences are made so that you can adjust them to follow the lead. Now, do you here? Let me get you a mortising gauge. Oh, you're going to just do that. Jim's going to cut a straight line here. He's marking the line, and
I'm not going to use the fence right now. I'm going to just cut the straight line, and then I'm going to stop in the middle of the cut, holding the board straight, and then align the fence to the board where it sits.
Okay.
That way, the board is parallel to the cut, and then the fence will be parallel to the cut.
Gotcha.
You ready?
Yeah, I'll be the human clamp on this. What Jim did there is as he was making the cut, he made just little adjustments till he was getting a nice straight cut. And now we've got this board clamp down here. We really don't need to draw that line. We could just bring this up and
well, we've got to adjust the fence.
Okay.
And so we need to move the fence over and check it. I always move it and check it parallel to the line at a nice even number, like 2 inches.
Okay.
That way I don't have to remember anything, and I can get the fence adjusted right to.
How does that? I know how to do the Shopsmith fence. How do you do the Craig fence?
Well, there's 2 bolts back here on the back that seem to be loose enough to make the adjustment.
Okay.
Here. I'll tighten them up real quick. Doesn't move again. That's why I carry this little wrench in my pocket, just for times like this.
Yeah, I've got a little wrench too. I mean, that's one of the 27 pounds of hardware that I wear.
Okay. Now, with that little mistake on there, that's kind of a scrap, but I have another board here that we can show the same thing on. Bear with me while I set the width. 13:30 seconds, right?
That's what we said. That's actually quite a bit of lead. Now that I look down that fence is angled a good 5-6 degrees. Folks,
Okay.
Just a quick aside here. You can adjust the lead on a bandsaw blade by stoning one side or the other, but you're at that point you're really dulling the blade on one side and shortening its life.
Okay, I believe we're ready to go again.
All right. How do we do?
Real good.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Okay.
Now, that's first piece.
Let's do one more piece.
Let me mark the sides so I can keep track of the piece here.
Good idea.
That way.
That is awfully smooth. Look at that. There's not a wave on there, is there?
No. That's sign of a real good blade, fence set properly.
Yeah.
We make our second cut here. Should give us 3 pieces. I'm going to get a push stick real quick. There it is.
Yeah.
Safety first. Now for the last piece.
You know, those are so smooth, you could really clean them up with a sander if you wanted to.
Almost. Now, let's move these others out of the way.
Yep.
Let me have my 3 new pieces. Almost have it. It's almost like putting together a puzzle sometimes.
Yep. There we go. All right.
Okay, there's the 3 lines that line up
All right.
and the X mark. Now we open this one up. This one lays down like this, and this one lays down like that, and they all go together.
That's a double book match.
Double book match.
Oh, cool.
Now we have to plane them.
Okay. Guys, those of those of you who are watching, we've got about 5 minutes to go on this session. If you have questions, start entering them now, and Jim and I will take them immediately after. Camera.
One of the things is, again, the grain slope that we talked about earlier. On this bold grain yellow pine, I can see that the slope like this, so I want the cutter head turning in this direction and it feeding under it. So I'm setting all my boards on the planer in that direction so that when I run them through the planer, I can just run them back to back to back, and they all stay running in the same direction.
You actually run them through with that end to end?
Run them end to end. That way you prevent sniping on the ends of the boards.
Oh, okay. And a snipe is when?
Snipe is not the little animal that you chased in the woods when you were a Boy Scout.
No.
A snipe is an extra deep cut at the ends when one of the feed rollers leaves the board. And that causes the board to tip a little bit and dig in right there at the end, either at the beginning or the end.
You can prevent that by just feeding the boards end to end, at least in the
middle.
In the middle where they're bunched together.
Now on the beginning of the cut and the very last board, the end of the cut, I raise up just the slightest little bit, and it's more pressure than anything else, just raising up as I start the feed of the first board and end the feed of the last board. That prevents all the sniping.
Okay.
You want to see how it works?
Let's see it.
Okay. I want to adjust my depth of thickness of the wood here.
Now, how do you know when you've got to the right thickness, where you're at the 0 mark?
Well, for right now, I'm just feeling for the rollers. I've got some contact with the rollers. I know I'm close, but then as I start the first board in, I'm going to be turning the handle and listening for the knives to just start cutting. That's my 0.
Okay.
And then I know I've got a 30-second to take off on each side in order to get down to a thickness close to 1/4 of an inch. So when I glue it up, I'll have a little left over to plane off after everything gets glued together.
Okay. How do you cut a 64th off? How far do you move this?
Each revolution of the handle is a 16th.
Okay.
Half a revolution is a
32nd.
32nd. A quarter revolution is a 64th. So it's very easy to tell. We've got tape lines on here so that when the handle lines up with those tape lines, it's at an even 16th fraction. So that when it's...
So right now it's a 64th past that fraction.
Right, and that's just my starting point.
Yeah.
So I think we're ready to go.
Okay.
Turn on dust collector, hearing protection.
Place to stop. We just blew a fuse, guys. When we're running the planer and the sawdust collector off the same circuit, and we've got some lights to boot here. So Jim and I are going to go over to the laptop right now, which is right over there, and we'll take your questions. So we'll see you over there.